Last time we weren't able to complete the exercise. I had cross-origin resource sharing errors. I also had bugs in the static website scripts. And finally, I wanted to show you how to use the terraform output, the API gateway endpoint, to update the URL in the website script automatically. So today we'll start with fixing course issue, then bugs, and finally a bit of terraform magic. It didn't work, and I even redeployed my configuration one more time because I thought there is something wrong about the configuration. Maybe something was not applied, but actually I just forgot to add this resource name here. So with the resource name, I'm trying again. And let me see if it was applied. If the options request enabled, yes, it is enabled. Okay. What about the options request? Hmm. Am I running this very local file? What's the URL of the request here? Yes, the URL is okay. And still I have 403. That's a bit weird. Let me execute this request in console. It says missing authentication token. But actually I don't need an authentication token for my API gateway integration. It should allow unauthenticated access. Let me see if there is anything about the authentication. No, I don't see a thing here, but probably I should Google this particular error. So for API gateway integration, what do I do having this error for missing authentication token? And it's still a mystery because this request looks right. And if I check what's going on with another request, with the original request to the resource quiz, let me check. This is production deployment and the quiz endpoint, and it's accessible. So this very URL is correct, but what's gonna happen if I replace this request type uh, put with options? Where do I have the request type here? Okay, let me add options instead of put. And also I'll remove the parts of the request I don't need, user agent, etc. And let it be post. And I believe this will work. Yes, it is. It is working. But if I replace post with options, will it work? The URL is the same, but it tells me that my request is missing the authentication token. And if I go back here to the quiz, two methods declared for the same resource, and authorization is known for both. But what's the difference between options and the post? Why I can access post? I can access this resource by the post request, but cannot by the options. That's weird. Can I test it? Let me place my headers here. And what do I need else for the option request? Do I need the payload? Probably not. The URL is the default one, quiz, body. It says it requires the body. Let me provide it as well. Okay, test button. And what the response is, body is empty and the status is 200. Oh, that's definitely weird. Do I have my production deployment? I believe I do, because otherwise this request, not this, but this request won't work. My request to the quiz endpoint for the production deployment won't work if the deployment does not exist. And in the test call, it works as well. But if I perform this call here, it says missing authentication token. That's super weird. I believe my post request is plus minus the same as the option request that I created with the module. And probably now I'm gonna go and check the model definition for what resources it creates. And I'll go here and I'll check, I believe that's main.tf. I check main.tf and it also creates an extra integration. And what about authentication? From what I learned from GUI, authentication is not required at all. And uh, mm, authorization is not required. I believe authentication as well. So what's the reason for having this particular error? Hmm. Maybe again, I'll Google it for the specific case. And the case is, let me see, this is AWS Gateway API Gateway, and gateway endpoint is not the thing I'm searching for. And here, this particular error for options request. I see this problem happens sometime and happens quite often, I would say. So let me go and explore the first link. I browsed a bit and didn't find an answer. And the answers were something about the API, the authorization options, the missing deployment part, or maybe the missing options method as well. But in my case, that's correct. In my case, now I have the URL that works for the post, and this very URL doesn't work for the options request. So what I did, I tried and checked for the cases that looked exactly or plus minus like mine. And some comment told me that the problem might be the order in which resources are created. And last time I was trying my configuration, the couple options disabled. So first I disabled this enable course model, and I would apply this model after I applied the whole configuration. And something was broken. So what I did, I destroyed the whole configuration. I ran terraform destroy. This was my last but one command. And then with the same configuration, I applied it without any change introduced. And after applying the configuration, I copied the API endpoint and I updated my API endpoint here. So this is it. And voila, now it works. And now actually my quiz works, at least the first request, the very first request for getting the quiz topics. Let me check if the rest of the requests are okay. Might be not. Still so far so good. I was able to start the quiz, but now I have to schedule it. Starting is not enough. I should actually press this button and in couple seconds it should actually start. And yes, seems it works. Let me wait a bit until the second question appears. Yes, it does. So let me see if the whole quiz exercise, no, there is something wrong, and I believe this is about the data I post. So probably I should update my server.js file. Let's see what I'm posting. I'm posting the quiz results and the payload is just a number. This is not the way I'm going to test my quiz. Instead, I'll finish my exercise with the website part here in server.js. Oh, I'm here already in server.js. In the operation, let's see how I call it. I called it get quiz results. It should be, yes, it's here. I believe this should be also a JSON. Yes, like I did before. And I should pass this JSON to my Lambda function. But presently my Lambda function, let me see how it works, expects just quiz code. So this is not the way I'm going to use it. Let me introduce a simple request, quiz results request, and use this quiz results request here. Like I did before. The changes are minimal. I should have done it before deploying my Lambda. But now let me see, should I update something in the Lambda handler? No, I believe the handler function is not to be changed, but the server.js is, and again, I see quiz code is provided in a JSON. Now it should be fine, but I have to redeploy. And to redeploy again, I'm go and run this spec.json, spec lambda.sh. And upon completing this operation, I will redeploy one more time. And I hope this time that I'm deploying my whole configuration, nothing should be broken about the course resolving module and the extra actions, extra changes to the configuration I applied. Done. The URL, I believe it's the same. Yes, the same endpoint. And let me run the quiz again. Again, I'm opening this file directly. And I'm running the quiz, the first one again. start the quiz. 5 seconds to wait. It's happening fast, but I still have time just at least to check some boxes. Let them be the right ones. Now again, I see failed to fetch. Why? What am I missing? Now the payload is quiz code. Quiz code is, yes, I believe that's correct one. What was the response? 502. That is weird. Probably I should test my Lambda. If I provide the same payload, the problem is the quiz does not exist here in my test. So I should actually run a quiz. But still, let me see if it works, if the request is being processed, if the payload is just quiz code. Should it be quiz underscore code? Let me check. Yes. Is an integer value. It can be an arbitrary one. And the operation is quiz results, I believe. Yes. I see. This is a dictionary, and I didn't parse the dictionary as I did previously. So the request data is not actually this class object. No, instead it's a dictionary. In this case, this is a dictionary as well. And I should pass the request first. And only then I'll be referring to this quiz code field. Yeah, should be fine now. Let me repeat. Now the error is different and the error is something what I expected. But again, I should redeploy the quiz. Let me pause the video. Done. The deployment took a bit because the actual Lambda code was being deployed. But now, let me see first the URL. Yes, this is the same. And I'm gonna restart the quiz one more time. I hope for the last time today. So the quiz answers are the same. The questions are the same. And the only endpoint I want to check now is the get quiz results. By the way, these quiz results are getting requested too many times. No, it's 502. And now that's weird, as if I haven't deployed it. Because I actually applied the fix and I don't see any reason for this Lambda call not being successful. That's weird. Okay, it's internal server error. Let me just check if I redeployed the Lambda. So now I would check if I actually deployed the Lambda or I would redeploy it just to be sure. And for this reason, I would probably run this command with an extra flag force recreate. Let me check how it works. Terraform, force create resource. This is Terraform apply, and I need this resource reference here. And the reference is not the API gateway, but this time it's a Lambda. It's Quizless Lambda. Oh, yes, I do. And actually, it's being recreated because let's see, the last time I actually updated the website. Yes, but what else? Last time I ran this command, terraform apply, I didn't see the lambda function was actually updated. Yes, this was an update in place, but it was surprisingly fast. Let's see what's going on this time. No, the same fast. That's strange. Might be there is a slip of mind here as well. And what's going on now? The address is updated? No. The address is the same. So it's internal server error again. Hmm. Probably I shouldn't have recreated the Lambda function, but I don't see a reason for this behavior. So I'm gonna check the AWS Lambda and run this request, run this query directly in the Lambda function. I have the payload already to check. Let me try first the simple one. Oh, I see. After recreating the Lambda function, something went completely wrong and I'm missing my API integration. So let's say I'm gonna apply my configuration one more time. I hope the missing integration for API gateway and the Lambda will be created. Let me pause the recording. Done. Do I have this trigger now? Yes, I do. Do I have both options and post request? Because I don't trust it anymore. Yes, I do. So does it work now? Yes, it does. Fine. So I'm starting the quiz again and let it be a bit faster. Maybe 5 seconds is enough for a quiz round. And starting in 5, 3, 2, let's go and select Hawk and just select anything here. I don't have enough time to check all the options. And the quiz is finished. And something goes wrong again. So I should recheck my Lambda function. And to get the particular error on the server side, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna, oh, I'm gonna go back, copy this request payload. Should I go? Yes, this one. I'm gonna check my Lambda, I'm gonna test it. And what the payload should be? Not so sure. I believe this is the payload I need. I should escape again all the double quotes. And this is it, I believe, quiz code. Yes, more escaping. I'm not so sure about the curly breaks, but I see two on the left and two on the right side. Yeah. And it was successful. Ah, wrong operation. It should be quiz results. Oh, okay. Let me go back to the Lambda. This is interesting. What I'm doing here, oh, I'm converting this object with JSON dumps, and probably this is not the right thing to do, because ideally I need this to JSON method, and to JSON will probably convert some values like enum values to just strings, and this conversion would work for me. For some reason it worked locally when this code I used for my local fast API server, but now it doesn't work for Lambda. And the reason is again serialization. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna simplify this logic a bit. I'm gonna introduce the integrated response. This is a tuple now, and I'm not gonna use this anymore because serialization is tricky. Instead, I would introduce an ad hoc class for my response, and this class would be quiz, results, and data. I don't care about the naming at all because I'm a bit tired of this exercise. I wanna finish it, and maybe the last session will be devoted solely to the refactoring. And I can work on naming as well. But for now, let it be a simple Pydantic class with data, and results. Quiz data. Maybe not exactly this way. What did I have in the Lambda so far? Quiz results and quiz data. I want to repeat this in my quiz responses. Not here. Yes. Okay, I hope I do not introduce circular references. I will test it locally at least. And now my quiz manager method will return this data, not a tuple. And the conversion is quite simple. Again, let me check what it was before in the Lambda, quiz results and quiz data. And my manager now returns this Pydantic object, or none. So if I'm gonna go back to the Lambda, I will do this. Return results to JSON. Otherwise, return none. Oh no, let it be empty string. So I'm gonna test it here. Yeah, this is not an actual test because I don't have this data in the Redis memory. And as I don't have the data, that means I also can just check the happy path. And the happy path is in case I do have some data to return and to convert. But I'm quite sure my code is fine. And what I'm going to do now is deploy the Lambda again. So again, I should pack my data. That should be simple and fast. And the next step is to deploy. There is nothing I'm going to change, and I hope my Lambda deployment will take something around 8 seconds like it did before. And I'm going to check if the URL or the API endpoint is the same. And yes, I see it's the same. So now I can just run my quest, and I really hope for the last time. But let's see. The interval is 5 seconds. That's enough for us to test. One thing I could have done before trying the quiz from the GUI is to test the Lambda. But yes, now it works. So the exercise is almost completed, almost. There are two things at least I'm gonna fix, I'm gonna address. First, I don't need this many requests for the quiz status, for the quiz results. And the quiz check status and the quiz results request are executed because my JSON script logic, maybe for the round manager.js, has some flows, and the flows are around this function, update and render quiz data. So I would add this to do extra updates upon quiz finish. This is one thing I want to do, and the other thing is my server.js, because I have this base URL here. But if I'm going to check my API gateway, in the output, I have the endpoint. And ideally, I could use this endpoint to pick the output and update my JavaScript files, my local files here, not in the Lambda SRC, but maybe either directly in the storage folder. But again, most probably in a separate folder. I would create from a storage folder. I would copy and paste my files here and then use some command, maybe sed command, to update my round manager.js. So not my server.js file. So in this case, I want to replace this base URL div placeholder. The placeholder would be something simple like template. And I'm gonna replace this substring div an actual API endpoint. And this endpoint should also include the method name or the resource name. And the resource name is quiz. So I'm gonna sed this file for replacing template with the specific URL. But this is a separate exercise. I believe that's enough for the current video. So next time I'm gonna fix the JSON, and I'm gonna template and update the JSON based on the output I defined here in my API gateway integration. But before, the last thing I'm actually gonna do is to commit the changes. I don't wanna lose something on the way. And I see I have quite a few. What was the length branch here? I wanna see the list, and let the next one be okay. 0, 3, 0. And let's see if I have to update my git ignore. Because for instance, I don't want to include this lambda output and lambda src. Or maybe I do have lambda output, but I don't want to have this lambda.zip. Now let me see git ignore. If it's updated, if it's actual, yes. Lambda src, lambda output is not there. So that is probably it. Okay. These files I do want to update, including the server.js that is tailored now for the remote backend, not for the local one that I run with Kafka, Fast API. And now I'm adding all the changes to I'm staging, and here is a commit. Let's say backend is completely moved to AWS. I'm gonna store my remote branch, this one. Yes, I'm gonna push my head to Git, and I wanna merge it to main as well. And I'm gonna push my updated main as well. Okay, that's it. And the next thing to do is to fix my JavaScript that keeps updating the state and keeps updating the quiz results on average, maybe every second after the quiz is finished. And also, apart from this, I'm gonna again go here to server.js and make this URL populating from the output of my Terraform configuration from here. But again, this is for next, not for today. That's it. We have provided this infrastructure, and the next thing to do is polishing a bit our JavaScript static website, and then I will go back to the deployment and get this output and put this output here. Instead of this URL, I'll be having a template. We'll be having a template that will be updating with the output before posting, or maybe before posting not the whole website, but just this part. So we'll split our deployment in two parts. We'll deploy AWS Gateway integration, and only then they'll update our files, our source files, and upload the files in the bucket. But the first thing to do now is to check what's going on with the quiz manager, with the one that requests the state on the server and the results of the quiz, because it's going on and on multiple times. For some reason, we are rendering the state and updating the state, uh, even though nothing's got changed and the quiz already finished. So I'm gonna debug this logic. I'm gonna probably add some extra login, or maybe I'll debug the JavaScript file inside my browser. But before, I wanna run the quiz. So let's go and check. To run the quiz again, I'm gonna navigate to this file. I'm gonna show it in Files and open with my Google Chrome application. Here is the quiz and it works. My deployment hasn't failed. Since I did it last time, it's still functioning. That's good news. And now that I start the quiz, press the start button. I'm gonna clean. I'm gonna select some option. The option I select don't matter much. Options will be not always the right ones, not always the right answers, but the important thing is this repeating request, or maybe two repeating requests. Not so many. I don't need options. I need to know why I'm asking for the quiz results. And also, let me check. Probably as well, I'm asking for the quiz check status. Yes, what's going on there? It's originated somewhere here. Update and render quiz data, I believe. But let me see if I have the initiator, the JavaScript file here. Yes, query server. Let's go back. It's originated here. Set timeout and check quiz status. So what's in this field? Should I place the breakpoint and check? Update in seconds equals to 5. That's really interesting. In my quiz, this value should be something different because quiz is already finished. So let me probably go back now to the index page. I don't want to abuse my Lambda function. I don't want to pay for the extra calls, even though the fee is almost nothing. And let me check my quiz. I have tests. I'm not sure, but at least I hope that my tests still work. So I'm gonna run the tests from the command line, make test, comment. No. Okay, I see what's happening. Last time I installed the only requirements needed for the Lambda, but the party test is not on the list. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna install the missing requirements. And what's the command? Oh, oh, pip install probably. Install R and requirements. I have requirements and I have Lambda requirements. And the good thing is, if I want to update the Lambda, I will call pack Lambda and the pack lambda.sh will pack the output here. And before we'll install all the requirements in the separate ad hoc virtual environment, but from the Lambda requirement short list. Lambda requirements list is short. Now I installed the wider requirements list. So I hope I blocked I unblocked myself for testing, but also I should make start command. I should execute this command to run the Redis container. Yeah, nice. Make test then. One test is failing and it's obvious because I updated somewhere something. This request get results now returns me not a tuple, but a different structure. And let me check how should I process this request. In the unit test, how should I update my unit test here? This result is the JSON I parsed, and I'm gonna debug. And I'm gonna check what the data I'm actually getting. Oh, failed to import the model. Might be this is because I'm using the wrong virtual environment. So now I'm gonna do the following. Now I'm gonna check my virtual environment. Yes, this is just the local one. Is it referenced here in my project settings? It's the right path. Yeah, I believe it's okay. But maybe I'll edit one more time. The existing environment. Yes, yes. Then might be something about PyTest model. Again, if I call it here, my make PyTest, the test, at least it would be run. But from here, there is something different. Maybe I should reinstall completely my virtual environment. So let me do this. I'll deactivate. Now I will remove all the files of the virtual environment. Now let me check how did I get the proper version of Python. Because here is a trick. Can I use this version locally? No, I don't need Python 3.10. Let me use 3.9 instead. Actually, what I'm gonna do again, I'm gonna show the which pyenv, pyenv which Python, env which Python 3.9, and this looks good. So I'll be using this Python version. Oh, and I will create the virtual environment in the current folder with the name venv. I believe it's created, so I'm gonna activate it. And let me check now Python version. It's a correct one. So again, I'm installing the requirements. While the requirements are installed, I also want to check if my project settings are still correct. This is a new environment and the suffix is 3. I believe that's it. But at least, at the very least, I see that there is no error about importing this or that model. For instance, I'm importing from FreezeGun library, and this FreezeGun library, of course, it's not a standard Python library. I have this library in my virtual environment, and there is no red line underneath this import, and that probably means that my virtual environment is recognized by IDE. Maybe I should completely quit the IDE, maybe, and run it again. So let's see if that works. I need this small green arrow on the left side to be able to run this test locally. It failed. and it says there is no module bottom 3. Yeah, that's true, because I didn't need this module for my website, but there is no crime in adding the module. Even though I'm not using bottom 3 in my local configuration, but let's just install it because I don't care about the volume that the modules occupy in my local configuration unless I go to Lambda. But for Lambda, I have different requirements. And let me update the requirements as well. That would be pip freeze. And the target is my requirements.txt. Now, should I repeat? Oops, it's updating indexing. Should I repeat my test? And this time, the failure is something that I expected. So it originates here. I will debug and see what I have instead of quiz data. Oh, this is interesting. So this is not a Lambda. This is a quiz manager API integration. Does not work because I didn't update it after the changes to the management service, to the quiz manager class. And here I am in the API implementation, and here are the results. And I process the results as I did before introducing this new response class. So instead, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get this response and return it as an array. This array, I would not an array, but JSON object dictionary. I would simply return, in this case, I would simply return result to dictionary. Otherwise, if it's null, I will return, I don't know, maybe just an empty dictionary. That doesn't matter much. Let me test the results again. I will debug because I still expect an error. But actually, there are quiz results and there is quiz data, so it might be okay. Let me check. Yes, the test is green now. I fixed the test for the website because the website used to behave a bit differently, not the way the Lambda did. Now that I can test it, I actually want to check what I have in the data, or yes, in the data, and why the time to update is 5 seconds. It should be some bigger value of the expiration for the test, and the expiration is to be performed in 1 hour or maybe even more. So I don't have this data. I don't have any indication on the update time. Okay, maybe it's in quiz results, or maybe okay. The quiz results is not the data I'm interested in. Instead, I'm gonna do the following. Apart from testing the quiz results, I want to test the state as well. The state is finished, yes. But now the question is what the update time here. Let me do some assertion here. What's the actual quiz state? Let me just put a breakpoint and run the test again. Updates in seconds 11. That's not true. That's not going to be this way because the quiz has already finished. Okay, let me copy this value. Not the value, but the name. And update in seconds should be at least more than 10 minutes. And 10 minutes, let me not hard code my calculation, is 600 seconds, but it's less. So while checking state here, I wanna go and check what's going on inside. By the way, why do I have this error? Oh, because of this? Yes. So first I will put my breakpoint here. Oops. No, let me go back. I want to put my breakpoint here. And now I'm going to go to the quiz manager implementation. And here, where I'm getting the quiz state, I'm going to second put the breakpoint here and check the update time, where it's set. Okay, let me run the test again. This breakpoint is hit. Now I'm going to check this one, read and update quiz state. Oh, yes, I am inside this updating function and the state was scheduled. No, it was a running quiz, so I should go here inside. Status was started. The status is to be updated. Ah, that's interesting. So I'm returning this value, updates in second, as if there is a next question, but there is no question. The quiz has to be finished. And I should go inside line number 48. And I will. And here I probably should set the update in seconds as the quiz expiration time. Okay, let me go and update quiz state. Update in seconds should be equal to quiz state expiration. Is it daytime? Yeah. Minus current time. How do we work with the time? Or do we use just UTC now or some extra? Hmm. I have this helper function. So this is it. This way I would have the correct updates in second value. I'm not sure if it solves my problem, but let at least check this very test and let's check what the value is now. The state updates in second is a bit less than expected because, okay, the expiration time obviously was something different. How do we set the expiration for the quiz? If it's finished, I should also update this value. No, shouldn't I? Let's see, started quiz expiration seconds. Yes, this value we should have in the expiration, but we have a different one, the one for the pending quiz. We don't update the expiration of the quiz when it started. So this is the different problem. I should go to the update quiz state from the pending to start from the schedule to start it. Let me say expiration will be equal to time plus this interval, time delta, and the delta is started quiz expiration seconds. Now I believe that's it. I will run this test again. And it works. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna go and publish my Lambda function, the updated Lambda function. And I'm gonna apply my Terraform configuration. And I'm gonna run the test one more time. Terraform apply auto approve. Approve. And if I'm lucky, my second attempt to perform a test, to perform a quiz, to run a quiz locally, but targeting the same endpoint for the Lambda function, will be a bit more of success, and I won't see these extra requests for the quiz state. So I'm gonna first update it with hot reload. Not sure what's going on. Why can't I access my local file? I can, okay. I'm not sure if my quiz is actually updated on the server side. No, I don't have to pause each time. I'm gonna start my quiz. And answer. And couple more options to answer. So do I have more questions? More queries? Probably not. And let's see what the last query was. The payload was quiz results, okay? And the previous one was check quiz status. And the response is state, and updates second is quite a bit. I'm too lazy to calculate how much this is, but it seems a bit too much. This is in seconds and this is in minutes. Yeah, still quite a bit. So this is not what I expected. And let me check again the quiz locally. What do we have in the state, in the updates in seconds? Again, that's not a big deal because we won't execute any action to expire the quiz data. It will be expired automatically, but still, yes, the value is the same big. That's a good news. That means I could easily fix it or at least trace and root cause this error on the server side in my development environment, not on the Lambda, not on the AWS side. Here, what we have in the set state, where did I, yes, expiration is time plus time delta. And I didn't provide seconds equal to this. Oh, my fault. Let me run the test again. It should be 60, no, 1 hour probably. And now the value looks better. This is 1 hour minus something. Yes, this is what I expected. But the good news is there is already no extra update from the client side. When the quiz is finished, it's finished. And if I'm gonna, I don't know, select something here, this page is this dynamic HTML DOM elements are not getting updated regularly, constantly, every 10 or every 5 seconds. Otherwise, my selection would be gone if this table, results table, gets updated as well. So now I'm gonna pause my video because there is nothing thrilling in updating the AWS again. Now I'm gonna continue. The reference, the endpoint is the same, that's good news. I'm just go back to index.html. I will run the quiz, start it, start answering the questions in a couple seconds. Yes, I can. And I will check the response from the server when the quiz is over. And the quiz is over. What is inside this request? This is quiz results, not something I needed. This is options, and this is quiz check status. And the response state now looks much, much better. Probably, oh, it looks ugly here. It's actually looks ugly, and I know the reason. And the reason is I don't trim this extra from updates in seconds here when I finish the quiz. Should I floor? Let me remember. In this case, if the update interval is short, I wanna extend this interval a bit. So I wanna go and run this function math floor ceiling. Why ceiling? Because the extra request to the server should ideally happen after the server state is updated. So this ceiling is a bit of guarantee that the server state is updated in my case. I'm not gonna repeat this tedious procedure of updating the server and running the quiz again. Instead, I would mention that this timer should be a bit more screaming, should be highlighted somehow, should be ringing a bell and showing that actually something's gonna happen soon, quite soon. So let me inspect this item and check this style of the element. It's a timer panel. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to the timer panel, no, to the CSS file of my JavaScript static website. Where do I have it? Storage, website, CSS. Do I have timer panel? No, I will add it. And what I'm gonna do is increase the font size. Is it called font size? I'm lame in front-end implementation or markup and so on. So I will be adding font size, let's say, oh, font size. Let's start from large. Is it better now? I won't say it really works. Let's say 200%. Yes, now it's much better. Okay. And I'm done with the front end part. The quiz works. It looks better, at least when I remove this extra. And the last thing is to deal with the template. But before, I will post my changes because I don't want to lose it to the repository. So what branches do I have now? Oh yes, it should be Git branch. Let it be a new one. Or might be, let me issue a complete new version. And this is the version 100 because the actual exercise is done and our later experiments with template, with endpoint being inserted here in the server.js. This exercise might not be something that I want to publish upon the main branch. This will be just my experiments. And this is a complete solution. So git add all and git commit complete static website plus AWS backend. I also, first I want to push the current branch. And I also want to merge it to the main branch. And push this change too. Now let me see if my static website works. But before I'm gonna again publish all the changes, including the recent one to the Lambda and the changes, the small changes to the website. This time I'm gonna check my quiz website, not locally, but remotely. And I'm gonna use this endpoint. I simply click and yes, it's here. And I see it works because I see the topics. And for my test to be complete, I will give myself substantially more time here because I don't want to play alone. This time I want to play with my friend, and my friend resides in this Firefox browser. So for him, I will copy and paste this URL. I tested it already. I still have this name. So I want to join the quiz. I want to join it here. It's updated. I should update manually. It's updated as well. Now what I'm gonna do, uh, my friend is not a quiz commander, so he cannot schedule the quiz. I will schedule the quiz here. Will start soon. Yes, it started. Let me answer. Let me answer as well. And the time is running out for both the players. The update has not been scheduled yet for both of them. And now all the players are updated automatically. That's good. I could select some options here and some options there. Both players answered the question. They still have a couple seconds to maybe, it was a bit too late. So the second player, I'm not sure what's happening here. The second player first missed the first question, didn't manage to answer the first question. And for the second question, the second player gave the wrong option. He selects two options. One was correct, the other was wrong, and missed two correct options as well. And what about the first player? The first player was correct for the first question, and for the second question, let me check what is happening and why this is only one question's correct. I'm not so sure. I should check the payload. What was in the quiz results? I can easily get the quiz results here. Correct answers 1. For the first answer, the option was the third one. I believe it was the right one. Yes, the third one is the right one. I see now there is an extra error. And the error is I'm sending this data in from the server, from the front end as a string. And there is something I should fix. I should fix it on the website in the JavaScript. So if I go back here, the first test after the final deployment showed me this error that I somehow missed before. So when I send in post in the answer, probably right here where reading the answers from the inputs, I'm doing it wrong. Let me see why it is wrong. This is the function. And in this case, this is the radio group value. And the radio group value contains something that should be an integer, but apparently this is a string. Okay, might be the fix as simple as this. So the fix would be just, would it be int parse? Could I use int parse in JavaScript? Parse int, parse int. Yeah, this is it. And I can easily test it locally. So I'm gonna run this quiz one, not this one. I'm gonna run a new quiz. This is not a web server, so I should be specific with the file I wanna watch. I wanna browse. Let me start the quiz one more time. Why it's not started? What's going on? Okay, one more try. Five oh two. What's going on actually? Why does this request works and the other does not? Maybe the name is occupied. Yeah, the Lambda does not return the response. We did something on the first API application side, on the server side. For the server we were running, and let me show it. The server resides in main.py, and in main.py we would intercept any exception, and we would return the exception code to the user. So ideally, we should do it also on the Lambda side. Instead of raising an exception somewhere inside and hiding this exception on AWS side, I should return the exception to the user. But now that I use a different name, no, still error. Now it's getting a bit tricky. If I enable the logs for the Lambda, I should see it in the logs. So for my Lambda function, do I have a page monitor? It should be. Should it be logs or traces? Oh, I haven't enabled logs. Maybe traces? No, I don't know what's going on the server side, but I want to do this. I want to go and copy this request payload. And I'm going to test my Lambda again, as I did before. This payload goes here, but it should look a bit differently. In the README file, I have this example of the request operation and the payload, and I will reuse it. Requested operation is quiz start, yes. Payload is yes, the same. Use ID, let it be different. Let it be the one I tried the last time. Am I able to test it now? Success. This is a puzzle. So this request, I'm gonna run from this URL. I want to simplify it a bit. I don't need these extra options. And now this is bare minimum, but I need also an extra flag to provide me with all the detail of the response. Yeah, that's it. Sorry, this dash is missing. It's 200. So that might be something about the options, but usually I see that there is something about the pre-flight request. I don't know. What if I copy the whole request? What if I don't minimize it? Oh yeah, in this case, there is an internal server error. That's tricky. I should check. I should check if I start removing some extra headers when it works. If I remove, say, origin is null, will it be working now? Because this origin null looks a bit fishy. No, that's something different. Okay, again, I know this should be a post request. Oh, actually, last time I tried options request. I don't want to check options. I don't know. I want to check post. They are the same internal server error. So something's happening on the server side, and that's not necessarily Lambda. That might be API gateway as well. Okay, I should investigate this case, but I want to be sure that's not Lambda. And for this reason, I would go to the Lambda. I would go back to the implementation. Let me find it and add the error handler, because so far, if something's happening on the Lambda side, there is no message. But I wanna fix this, and here in the Lambda handler, I wanna implement an exception handler, and this handler would also return specific body, and the status code would be 500. Probably I will do this. I will, yes, this code encapsulated, not this particular, and raise exception, no, probably this is not the way I'm gonna handle it. Yes, try and catch around all this code. And if I have an exception, I want to return something different. I want to return the same, but the body is it JSON again? Maybe. Let me see this response data. This is probably a string. No? What's inside? Yes, it's a string. So I should stringify the body. For this reason, here I'm returning the exception, and the body will be JSON dumps error message. This exception, or let me better call this exception. Yes, I will return this body. So now I'm gonna quickly check it. I'm not gonna test it, just a smoke test. I mean, I don't wanna automate this test. So if the regression operation is something that's not found, first, let me start my Redis instance. Okay. I should see the result, and the result is 500, body is exception, request operation value is incorrect, etc. Yes, this is what I expected. So now I'm gonna go back, pack my Lambda, and update it on the server. I'll pause the recording. Done. So let me repeat my last attempt to run the quiz locally. From this static website and this file I am opening in the browser. Opening files, and I need this index.html. So until I actually begin the quiz, everything's fine. What's happening when I try to start one? It's 500. Do I have more detail here? Yes. Oh, this is interesting. It says this quiz wasn't found out of this list. And I know what's happening. I actually introduced some error on the server.js site. And this error is specific to the function. I used to get the value of the radio group. And this long value, JavaScript, tries to parse as int. And let's see how it works. Parse int, this is the value, and the result is 73. So this is an obvious error I should fix on the client side on the static website. And let me go back to the JavaScript file that I used to obtain the values. This is the JavaScript file. And probably I don't need this parse int everywhere, only when I post in the answer. So this is somewhere here, post answer. And this might be an array of integers or might be an array of strings. How should I deal with this? Again, let me check what's going on if I'm trying to parse not a string, but an actual integer value. So it works. So probably this answer, that's always a string, I should transform to an array of integers. My answer now will be not a const value, but a variable. And this variable I'm going to transform using the map function. And each item will be parsed this way. Now I could just update my quiz page and try starting the quiz. And yeah, it works. I believe I need all the changes I introduced recently, including this parse integer for the answer, and also the changes around the timing. So now I'm gonna publish the changes again in my repository. So presently it's a main branch, and I'm gonna update it. What was the last feature branch I created, or version branch? Probably it was 100. Yep. So now I'll increase the version and store all my changes, because chances are I will break something soon. I will update the main branch as well, but first I'll push it. Fine. So finally, my next and the last step is to make this server.js base URL in a templated value and to populate this template from the output of the quiz terraform script. And this terraform script, let me focus on it, is here API gateway. And I will use this endpoint to update my static website files. I have this static website definition here in S3, and in S3 I list these site files. But before doing this, I want to substitute some values using probably bash cd utility. So let's finally make it. Now I probably go to the S3 Terraform file and I will introduce an extra action here. Not for the, yes, for this part might be for the website to update the files or one specific file, server.js, in order to upload the files on the server. So before uploading server.js, I want to perform an extra action, and this extra action I'm performing on my local machine. So this would be a local exec action. And I'll start from searching how do I perform local exec in Terraform. Terraform, AWS provider. Maybe the provider does not make sense. Here, this is just local exec. Actually, this is bound to the AWS instance. But in my case, this is not about any specific resource. I'm just running this provisioner locally for my static website files. And I could potentially introduce this step to my S3 bucket definition, but I don't wanna. So I will probably try null resource. Is it here? No, this search doesn't work this way. Might be here. Hmm. Okay, let me just assume that the resource should be null resource and the rest of the code is already here. Again, for the website, I will create this null resource. And of course, the name is different. What it does, it modifies the, let's say, server.js file. And the provisioner will execute a command, and the command would start from sed, and here I should refer to the URL, and I should replace this URL. Let me just state URL here. And I should substitute the URL with something else. I don't know yet what it is. Probably I will get this URL from one of the output for the API gateway from here. Hmm. And this substitution, or let me add this one, should affect the file. That is my local server.js. And how should I refer to my local server.js file? Might be it's better to introduce local variables here. Do I have local variables already? No. So this is locals. This is only always confusing that the locals section is plural, but when I refer to each local variable, it's singular. And in this case, I need a server.js path, and the path would be something. And I will just refer to this variable here in the file name. Oh, in the file name. The same way, I can refer to the URL. So it's not only server.js, but also, let's say, new quiz new quiz API URL. What do I have here? Probably I should add quiz as well. I'm not sure if I need this trailing slash. So let me try my Terraform outputs. If I just run Terraform plan, I should get the output. Oh, this is might be because of these variables I introduced. This resource I introduced. Okay, I should have my outputs here. Do I have this comment? Yes. So no trailing slash here. It's just the resource plus the deployment. And deployment is prod. And this means I need this extra trailing slash. Okay, I can substitute this lone value, this short one. But now the question is, will it work automatically? Will this script be executed? Oh, I'm missing something. And as I mentioned, again, constantly be aware of this plural and singular issue with locals. Will this script be executed? I'm not so sure. Maybe I need some trigger, but also I need a dependency because I depend on this API deployment. And I will be explicit here with dependency because I defined it in locals, and most probably Terraform will not be so smart to identify this dependency and to resolve it. That's simple. That's not it. Let me check. How do I trigger the deployment for the null resource? Okay, I just Google it. And the null resource should be triggered somehow. This is an example, but this is not the trigger for my null resource. And let me decide how often it should be triggered. I don't know, maybe the easiest answer, it should be triggered each time I run it. I run the script. So I would ask Google, how do I trigger this null resource every time? I already Googled it. I just need the specific recipe. I just need to refresh my memory. And yes, this is it. So this value timestamp is always different. Whenever I run my Terraform configuration, the always run timestamp would be a new value. So this null resource will always modify my server.js file. But the question is, how do I modify my file? And the answer is here. Instead of this, I have something simpler. I have, let's say, template server URL. This value is a constant, and I will refer to the constant value here, and I will replace the constant value with this. So what is to be updated? Oh, by the way, our server.js path is not defined yet. So I want to refer to the local file in the Terraform configuration. How do I refer to this? Let's see, where do I already use the server files? Template files data might be the source, but I want to have an easier way without specifying template file data, iterating this in a loop and searching for the specific file. There is an alternative, and the alternative is to refer to the local file in Terraform configuration. Let me Google it again. Let me reference the local file. This is called local file. I'm not sure. No, I don't need the file content. I need just a path. Yeah, I see the example here already. And this way I could refer to my local server website server.js file. I'm lost. Yes. In the locals, I will reuse path to the module, and the path and this path is somewhere inside this IAC folder. But I should go one directory up and then one directory down, storage. And then after the storage, it would be website, JS, index.js. That's it. But I will be actually updating my file directly in the storage folder. I'm not sure if I want to do this. Instead, I would rather prefer not changing my file that is under source control, but I would instead copy and paste the website to a different folder and refer to this folder here in quiz bucket size file in this template files website module. So I need an extra shell script to first create a website source folder, populate this folder from this storage website directory. Then, upon running my script, I'll be updating one specific JavaScript file in this folder and uploading files from this folder to the server. This is a bit cumbersome, and this is one of the reasons I didn't want to include this in my final solution on my final main branch, final revision of the main branch. But let's see, is it that cumbersome as I suppose now? So I already have this spec lambda file. I will just copy and paste for simplicity, but now it's spec website, even though I'm not packing. Okay, anyway. And what I'm doing, I'm creating website src folder, but before, if it exists, I will delete one and copy the files from storage, website, to the target folder. And that's it, no need to modify the file. And I'll probably add this whole folder to the git ignore. Now let me run this spec website, but let's see if it has a permission to be executed. Yes, I believe it is. And now I have website src. I should refer to this folder in my template websites in S3. Instead of storage website, it's just website src. And here as well, in my script, in my locals, in my script input for the server.js path, I'm referring also to website src. Now, I should execute this command before I execute the rest of the commands, including this one, including the command that actually posts the file on the server. And that probably means that I have to make this command depend on on this resource. So let me introduce this dependency here. The resource type first and the resource name second. Now I believe I can at least try applying my configuration. Let's see how it works. Inconsistency dependency log file. Line number 40 is incorrect. Why? AWS API Gateway deployment. What did I check about this file? I see. This deployment depends on the gateway integration. But I introduce another dependency here in S3 on the deployment and on the, yes, finally on this resource, null resource, I also introduce a dependency. Okay, maybe this is only about the way I introduce a dependency. Somewhere I may use double quotes and somewhere I may be okay without. So let me remove the double quotes. I believe that's simple. Oh, For this provider, I didn't introduce a version. That's interesting. Do I need a version for my null resource? Hmm. Let me go back to the HashiCorp Terraform provider. It's in the main.tf. And I have a version, but should I also specifically add here the provider for the null resource as well? This is interesting. I never thought that this very resource has to be listed in the providers. It probably is, it probably has to be listed here in providers because that's not exactly Terraform. Oh, sorry, that's not exactly AWS. How do I add this provider? Let me just update my Terraform configuration because probably the provider modules were not updated. And that was it. And now I can apply my configuration one more time. And now it seems okay. Let me see if my command worked. Oh, local provisioner failed. Yes, probably there is something wrong about the expression. And let's first check this expression locally. I would run this command in the terminal, but I need more inputs here to replace all the template strings with actual values. So I would run sed and something, and the next will be this variable. Let me find it. This was in the output. Ah, that's actually this value. Yes, I see there are double slashes, and the slashes probably are not okay for the sed command. So right now, after I just printed this template value for the sed command, I see that the slashes might be deprecated. So this means I probably have to update my local section, and to escape these slashes, I believe to escape I should add just regular slashes. Oh, sorry. Let me see. cd escape. Probably I need backslashes. Single quotes around. Yes, that's okay. And I need backslashes. Yeah, that's the case. So in these locals, I have to replace this. Let me find it in the locals, this value with the value where each slash forward slash is escaped with the backslash. There is a replace command in the Terraform. Not a replace command, but a replace function. And to test this function, I would go and run Terraform console. And here I could probably define some values. Could I use variables? I don't know. Could I introduce a variable? Not this way. Could I introduce locals? This way? No, I should Google how do I introduce variables to test. Maybe I will do without variables. So I will try just replace, and the value is something like I tried before. And I would replace this guy. Probably I need two forward slashes because I'm not escaping the symbol. I'm just introducing the, sorry, backslashes. I'm just introducing a backslash. And now I am replacing this. Oh, sorry. Div slash. I'm not sure if it works, but see. Yes, or no. The replacement didn't work as I expected. Again, let me check how people would replace SED forward slashes. Okay, probably one is enough. Oh, no, I can't use just one forward, one backslash between before a forward slash. I hope this will work. Let's see. So I would call a replace function, and my second argument would be a symbol I'm escaping, and the third argument, the substitution. That is it. Let me see if my copied version of the website files is not corrupted by the command I try to execute. It shouldn't be, but just in case. No, it's okay. So I'm just repeating what I did before. I'm auto-approving and I'll pause. And now, surprisingly, the command tells me that it can't read this website underscore src folder. And inside JS and inside index.js. Oh, my fault. It should be server.js. Let me see first here if it worked. And I see now the base URL was automatically updated, substituted, and let's check the server. The server static URL is the same. What about not this one? What about this file? Yes, I see the server.js got updated. And now there is the real URL of the resource, and this URL wasn't hard-coded by me. And I believe our exercise is finally completed. And the last thing I want to do is to remove this unnecessary string, but not here. In the source file, in the server.js, in the original storage website folder. And before actually publishing my branch, my new branch, and updating main, I feel I'm okay with pushing this to the code repository. I will also create some payload that looks differently, that looks like a real one, and that has, let's say, 10 real questions, some meaningful questions that I should eventually publish instead of what we have now in the quiz. Two completely irrelevant quizzes with two questions in each. Done. I updated my quiz data as well. And here there are about 10 questions. I hope there are 10 questions. And these questions make more sense than it was for our test quiz. And this is it for the whole exercise. I also updated the website, and I hope my quiz looks much fancier now that I really provided the quiz data folder with the new questions and I would say images that actually correspond the quiz content. Let me start the quiz and show you a couple questions. Yes, I don't remember the answer and I don't want to spoil it, but let me just press answer and go to the second question. Now it looks a bit of a real application. Of course, the design is awful, but it's functional. I truly see that my job is done here. And probably the last thing to do is to overview the whole solution we have. Again, do not forget to commit to the repository. I have quite a few updates, and these updates are about the quiz content, the small update to the Solid.js, the Terraform configuration, and the API gateway that was inconsistent with double quotes around the dependencies. That means I should introduce, let me see, existing branches, a new branch, and this would be 120. The main thing we did was, let's say, that was about a URL in the Solid.js, and we updated this URL based on the output. So let's say update the API endpoint in the static website based on the Terraform output. I will push this branch, and I also will merge this branch on the main. Done. Having wrapped up the exercise, let's do a quick recap. I'll provide you a brief rundown of the solution and demonstrate how you can adapt this project into a framework for your own AWS-based client server, or I would call client serverless application. Catch you in the final lesson.